Hey guys, I'm currently traveling on a humanitarian trip here in the Dominican Republic and thought to shoot a quick travel video. If you haven't traveled before, if you don't travel very much, if you travel a lot but you're looking for some tips on how to be more efficient, save money, have a more pleasant experience, I've been around the world a few times and wanted to kind of impart some of my tips and tricks to you. This particular video is going to be focusing on flying, so I'll do a couple, I think, in this series based on your feedback, from packing to lodging and accommodations, transportation, car rental, things like that. Okay, starting with buying the tickets. Assuming you're flying somewhere, I always start with Expedia, and I check because that way you're seeing everything, and I usually sort it from cheapest to most expensive. Now you're also able to filter by economy, basic economy, business class, first class. Typically, I like to go by economy plus because that way you can get things like you can have a carry-on bag for no charge. You can pick your seat, things like that. There's a couple other things. You're not the last to board the plane. There's a couple perks. It's kind of like a race to the bottom with airline pricing. There's economy, which you're used to, but then everyone's trying to go onto Expedia and find the cheapest flight. So some places like Spirit Airlines kind of led the way there, and Frontier, where they strip you from like everything that you can get, which is everything from like Spirit charges you to get water on the plane. If you just want a cup of water and there's no seat back entertainment, the seats don't actually recline, so it's the Walmart of the air, definitely. It's like just no frills. If you just let it go by default and you go by cheapest, you're probably looking at the basic economy. What happens if you don't choose your seat, if you get a basic economy? Typically, the seat will be assigned for you at the gate. You're sitting waiting for the plane to board, and you are called by the gate agent, and they will give you a ticket with your seat assignment. Chances are phenomenal it will be a middle seat, because everybody who paid to pick their seat are either picking window or aisle. Speaking of which, benefits, pros and cons of each. If you are on the window seat, yes, you get the window, you can see out there, you can take some great photos for Instagram and social media. The downside is if you have a small bladder, if you drink a lot of water, if you need to get up and stretch, you have to ask at least one person, maybe two, depending on how large the plane is, how many rows are in each aisle, to, excuse me, I need to get out. You can feel a little bit claustrophobic, I suppose. On the aisle, you can get up and go as much as you need to. Just be aware that you'll be leaning over people if you want to look out the window. You are not really in control of that, of the shade on the window. If there's sunlight coming in, or if it's closed and you want to see out, you can't really, unless you ask the person nicely who's ever by the window if they can open or close it. And you have to watch your elbow for the cart or things coming up and down the aisle. If you're sleeping like this and somebody walks by and knocks you, airplanes are close quarters. Middle seat, there's generally no good thing about being in the middle seat. You don't get the window, you don't easily get in or out. And if you're in that last aisle, right before where the galley is and the restrooms, your seat will either not recline or recline very, very little, so just be aware of that. If you want a little bit more space, make sure you either pick an exit row, that way you'll get a lot of space. If you get the seat right in front of the exit row, those seats do not recline as much in case of an emergency and they need to get out of the plane quickly. If all the seats are really far back, it's going to inhibit people from exiting the plane in one of those situations. So those recline a little bit less. Regarding parking at the airports, I tried a lot of different parking companies, but I stopped looking when I found the parking spot. Highly recommended. This video is not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I use them exclusively. The very first thing I do when I'm going to an airport that I have to drive to, I will check to see if the parking spot is at an airport. Currently living in Connecticut, so most of the major airports, with the exception of JFK, has a parking spot location. I've left my car with them so many times. I'm currently a gold status member or something with them. I've never had a single scratch on the car from them, no matter how packed or busy they were. The service is always fantastic. They have an app that's free. You can check to see where your shuttle is and make reservations and things like that. They're cutting edge. And the cherry on top is when you're going to leave the parking spot location to come home, at checkout, there's always a refrigerator stocked with ice cold water, which you never think about it, but before the long drive home, you're in need of water. So it's one more touch that they have. It's really the cherry on top. I cannot recommend them more. I'll have info on the parking spot in the description below. Now here's what you want to do before your flight. Before you get on the plane, before you lose Wi-Fi, before you get onto the fuselage of the airplane, because typically cellular service is abysmal inside the aircraft itself, and they haven't yet turned the Wi-Fi on for the plane, you want to download the latest version of the app for whatever airline it is that you're flying. There are certain flights that do not have the seatback entertainment, so you will have to watch it on your phone. You can only access that through their app. Most airlines are like this. So even if you have the Delta app, you want to make sure you're running the latest version. So go into app settings and make sure you download the latest. There was one occasion where I had the Delta app, didn't realize it was out of date until we were in midair, and I was unable to update it. And that particular update had something to do with the functionality of watching the in-flight entertainment. And I recommend you have that app anyway, and make sure you turn on notifications. There's few apps I have notifications turned on, even to my watch, which I'm not wearing right now. Again, humanitarian trip, I'm not gonna wear an Apple Watch. But it will update you if there's a gate change. I'll be walking to the gate and I feel a tap on my wrist, I look down and it says, oh, your gate has been changed to whatever. And the speed that it gets to your device, whether it's your phone or your watch or whatever it is just as fast, if not faster, believe it or not, than what the gate agent will be telling you. So it's like they get the information the same exact time you do on your app. So it's pretty much real time. So again, highly recommend you get the app for whatever it is and then plug in your flight information. Now, if there's one airline that you fly a lot, sign up for free for Sky Miles account if it's Delta or whatever it is, and start racking up points that way. Even if it's like, well, it's like 1/3 of the time I use Delta, 1/3 is United, 1/3 is American. Download all 3 apps, create a free account on each one every time you fly with them. Make sure you put in the points for that, so that way, little by little over time, you're earning perks such as free checked bags, or you'll get like medallion status on Delta, and there's certain perks that are allotted to that. You'll board the plane faster, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm not even on medallion yet. I fly a lot, but I'm sporadic with my airlines. I haven't really chosen one because there are times where if I only want to fly Delta, okay, well, they're both going to the same place, and Delta might be 30% more just for flying Delta, and that's also economy, not basic economy, but regular economy versus United flight. So maybe it's not a hub that they directly fly into, so there's at least one connection flight, and it increases the pricing, things like that. So I think that was a moth or a black butterfly. I'm not sure what that was. Now, this is important. You want to get to the airport. Like, you want to calculate this. So you are stepping foot into the airport, pre-security, 2 hours before a domestic flight, and ideally 2.5 to 3 hours before an international flight, especially if it's not a very early morning flight, meaning before 7 a.m. Typically airports, even busy ones, Newark and JFK, aren't crazy before 7 a.m. even on weekdays. I found, at least in my experience. Certainly there's exceptions to the rule if you're traveling around Thanksgiving or Christmas or around a major holiday like that. You want to get there earlier, especially if you do not have a TSA PreCheck. Now, a word on TSA PreCheck. If you fly more than, let's say, twice a year or so, I recommend you get PreCheck. It's a small fee. You got to go through the interview process at your local TSA location, bring some forms of ID. You have an actual face-to-face interview with a TSA agent. But what that does is, you can see those, when you're at the airport, you see those TSA pre-lines. Those lines are always shorter than the general boarding going through security. You'll be in and out much faster. You can usually keep your shoes on, your belt on. You don't have to take out a million electronics out of your bag. One time, long story, but we had an iron skillet in our bag. They saw an x-ray, like, just keep going. So have TSA PreCheck. You will save a lot of time, especially critical for when you are running late to the airport and you're getting there like, for this flight, for Dominican Republic, for example, we didn't give ourselves 2.5, 3 hours. There was traffic getting in, so we had about 2 hours from when we stepped foot in to when our flight departed. We had TSA PreCheck. We went to LaGuardia. From the moment that we stepped foot into the airport to the time that we were at our gate, through security and everything, was 20 minutes. Oh, and we stopped for coffee. So highly recommended. It'll give you a lot of peace when you're heading to the airport and you get stuck in traffic. You're like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. But you have PreCheck. If you travel internationally more than once a year, highly recommend Global Entry. That's fantastic because when you come into the United States from wherever you are, you get fast pass through immigration and customs. It's like a self-serve kiosk, and then you give that printout to an agent at U.S. Customs, and you are just right through. Again, bypassing the line. Very few people have Global Entry, so this is like really like a fast pass here. Now, since we are talking about efficiency at the airport, in addition to TSA PreCheck, there are certain airports where the pre-check line is getting pretty long as people wise up to TSA PreCheck. So there's also Clear. So Clear is one more beyond TSA PreCheck. There's an additional fee for that as well. A couple buddies of mine use it. They swear by it. They travel even more than I do, but I will leave links for both TSA PreCheck, Global Entry, and Clear in the description below. Here are my must-have items for any flight. First, you want to make sure you are packing your chargers, your cell phone chargers, iPad chargers, or tablet chargers, whatever you need for the flight. It's always a good idea also to have a power bank for you. Invest in one of those, a decent one. Don't get like the $10 one that you put 2 AA batteries into. Get a decent power bank that's rechargeable, that has 2 USB ports on it so you can charge multiple devices simultaneously, because not every plane has, most planes I've noticed, don't have outlets at the seat, and you may want to charge up your devices. Next, you want to bring headphones for whatever devices you'll be watching on the flight. Now, often you don't really know, unless you do some digging, if your particular flight has seat-back entertainment to and from your destination, but you want to bring headphones, ideally the 3.5 millimeter plugs, as well as the one that goes into your device, so that way you can listen to something either on the seat back or on your phone, on your device during the flight. If you are susceptible to motion sickness even a little bit, like I am, you'll want to pack Dramamine. If you are on a red-eye flight and you want to make sure you're sleeping, get the regular Dramamine. If you are taking an early morning flight or an afternoon, and when you get to your destination you want to be perfectly alert, you'll want to get the non-drowsy formula. They also have chewable Dramamine as well, which is nice in case you're running somewhere you don't have water to drink. But what you want to do is have the Dramamine 30 minutes before you'll need it. I found even like small motions of the plane as people are boarding, I'm getting on, and then as I'm sitting there, sometimes you can almost feel, I'm a wuss, I don't know, but sometimes even sitting on the tarmac, we haven't even taken off yet, the door's still open, people are coming on, I'm feeling the motion of the plane a little bit. So what you want to do is have it 30 minutes before you board the plane. That way by the time you get on, it's kicking in and you're feeling the effects of the Dramamine already. The last thing you want to do is take it when you realize you need it. At that point, it's too late. So, and this is especially true for puddle hopper planes, smaller jets that only hold maybe 30 people or so, doing smaller connections. Typically, your larger flights, New York to LA or to Florida, or larger aircraft like that, is less susceptible to that kind of motion sickness. The larger the aircraft, usually the better. So there's that. And if your ears pop as bad as mine do, you'll also want to pack gum. That is most critical on the descent. When the pilot comes over the intercom and says that they are beginning their initial descent, you want to grab that gum and pop it in your mouth and start chewing. Because you're chewing, you're creating more saliva, you're able to swallow, and it helps your ears a bit. And the key is to have all of those accessible to you. Now, I recommend not even putting it in your carry-on, but keep it in your personal items. So if I'm bringing a laptop bag, I'll have all the items I just described in a very accessible pocket in the laptop case. If I'm bringing a backpack, I'll make sure everything is all in one spot in that backpack, so I can just kind of reach down and grab it, and I know right where everything is. So you're not scrambling for it or looking for it, or you're thinking, oh my god, I actually put my Dramamine in my checked bag and it's under the plane right now. Jesus. Now, all the airlines recommend, and so do I, if you're seated at your seat, keep your belts fastened. Just because a pilot took off the fasten seatbelt sign doesn't mean you should, unbuckle and continue watching your movie. Whenever I'm seated, I make sure that my belt is secure and tightly fastened. Now, when you are deplaning, depending on how far back you are, don't unbuckle and then stand up and do one of these under the rack and waiting for everybody to just take a seat. When like the row like 2 in front of you is getting up and grabbing their bags, then you can get up and stand up and start kind of strategizing how you're going to grab your bags. But just move efficiently. Whether you're boarding the plane or deplaning, just be efficient. Know that there's people behind you. Please. He agrees. So grab your bags, head off the plane. Here's a rookie mistake. You get off the plane, your bladder's full, you hit the first bathroom you see. The whole plane of people has the same exact idea. Keep walking down towards baggage claim and hit the second bathroom you see. That will typically have an exponentially shorter line. This especially goes for you ladies, but it's very common at airports for guys to have long lines, just like it's at a concert or something. So hit the second bathroom when you deplane. Now, as you make it to baggage claim, just you follow the signs. Airports in any language, usually it does have English as well, but it's very, very clearly marked because they know that there's a bunch of confused people not knowing where to go. The bigger the airport, the better the signage typically. So get to baggage claim, and hopefully you have distinguished your bag from everybody else's. Everybody's got a black or a gray bag, so do something that will distinguish it. So don't put, like some kind of a ribbon around the handle, because that may come off while the baggage handlers are handling it from point A to point B. I have seen some people do it. I'm assuming it comes off easier than other things, so I personally have brightly colored gaffer's tape. I have brightly colored gaffer's tape I wrap around handles, but if you have luggage tags or something that will very easily, quickly differentiate your bag from others, go ahead and do that. So that way, at baggage claim, you don't accidentally grab someone else's bag. Now, when you did check your bag, you should have been given another little receipt. Hold on to that, because in some locations, especially like New York City, like bigger areas, Santo Domingo just now, when we came in, they were doing that. So when you go to baggage claim, you can't leave the area until you show your ticket stub matching the luggage tag that's on yours. So they will literally hold it side by side and look at it. If the numbers match, you can go. If they don't match, you're gonna have a problem. So do not throw that out, don't lose it. When I was at LaGuardia just now, I saw 2 baggage tags on the ground. Now whoever dropped those on the ground at the terminal in LaGuardia, wherever they're going, they're gonna have a problem. Hopefully that helped you, and if you are traveling with others, make sure you share this video with them so that way they can travel that much smarter as well. Until next time, safe travels.